Chapter 9. Scams. Let's be honest. If you don't have much money, you're not going to lose much in a scam. And if you do have plenty, you've usually made it enough to bounce back even after a hit. Scams, by their very nature, tend to self-regulate. They're rarely so massive that they completely devastate someone financially. That said, the fallout isn't always measured in dollars. It's exhausting to watch people drain all their energy trying to claw back what's been stolen, losing faith in a world where it seems every interaction is a dog-eat-dog battle. And sometimes, the consequences are tragically irreversible. People lose everything, even to the point of ending their lives, leaving families in ruin and communities in despair. At some point, it makes sense to shift your focus. When you're young and building wealth, you can take risks. When you've already amassed more than you could ever dream of earning again, say through a court settlement, a divorce, or the sale of a business, it's smarter to protect what you've got rather than chasing more. One day, the marketing machine will have to break out its flashy routine to sell you the latest gimmick, like some ridiculously overpriced LED light or a magnet bracelet promising the world. A piece of plastic with a few LEDs for $300, tested on 30 volunteers, no less. And don't even get me started on those sleep-improving bracelets. It's almost laughable how misleading advertisements and questionable promises have become a tax on those who can't or won't do the math. It's like everyone thinks that by handing over their cash to the clueless lottery of life, they're contributing to some greater good. Somehow, convincing yourself that someone else is going to waste their money for a noble cause makes the scam a little more palatable. But here's the thing. The mental gymnastics people perform to justify these scams are astounding. They argue that taking money from those who can't hold on to it forces them to work harder, and in the process, somehow makes the world a better place. Sure, there are always edge cases, people already at capacity or unable to invest in proper tools, but the bottom line remains. In an ideal world, every marketing strategy and incentive would actually improve our lives. If something like the lottery is clearly bad for everyone, then why on earth is it pushed by state-funded advertisements? Instead, we could be promoting healthy lifestyles, leading to better health, lower healthcare costs, and even more happiness. Who knows? Maybe fitter, happier people would even bring more life into the world. The reality is, most advertising is a scam in disguise. In the battle for your attention, the best deals are often hidden, while the worst scams can afford to shout the loudest. Look at hedge funds. They weren't even allowed to advertise until a few years back, yet scams have been evolving forever. If something reaches out to you rather than you seeking it out, odds are it's designed to fool you. The trick is making you think you initiated the contact, when really, they're the ones with the agenda. Remember, there's a fool at every table. If you can't identify who that fool is, chances are you're it. Whether you're betting, selling, or working with someone, knowing who's being taken for a ride can save you a lot of trouble. And if you allow someone to rob you, you're not just handing them more profit, you're also sacrificing money, relationships, and setting a dangerous precedent for others. Avoiding the pitfalls. Some scams are obvious, flashy get-rich-quick schemes that promise little work for massive rewards. Pyramid schemes, MLMs, and Ponzi scams abound. I've seen it all, buying jewelry or speakers off the back of a truck, only to find out the goods are counterfeit. If a product is so cheap and useful, it's already on the shelves of regular stores. When you see convoluted compensation schemes and a maze of middlemen, you're probably staring down a scam. Take professionals like real estate agents, lawyers, and accountants. Their incentives can sometimes be misaligned with your best interests. A real estate agent earns more when your property sells for a higher price, so why would they ever push for a better deal for you? Similarly, some lawyers thrive on creating more problems, and accountants are more interested in covering their own backs than actually saving you money. When you rely solely on intermediaries, you might be paying for inefficiency rather than quality. The psychology behind scams. Scammers are often charming, intelligent, and relentlessly motivated. When victims discover they've been taken advantage of, they naturally want their money back. Imagine if these resourceful individuals channeled their talents into honest work instead of devising ever more creative ways to rip people off. The first quality you should demand in anyone you hire or work with is honesty, followed by competence. If someone intends to steal from you, you'd rather they be so inept that they can't even execute it properly. Understanding scam tactics can help you steer clear. Advanced fee fraud, for instance, is all about promising you a huge payoff in the future in exchange for a small payment today. Whether it's an offer of eternal life or miraculous wealth, the catch is always the same. You never see any reward. Instead, you're simply lining someone else's pocket at the expense of your future. Sometimes what appears to be a stupid scam is actually executed with a degree of cunning. Scam emails, notorious for their absurdity, are designed to attract only the most gullible, and the names of these scammy businesses often reveal more about the scammer than the product they're peddling. If a business name is loaded with grandiose claims like millionaire, don't expect any real millionaires behind it. Even institutions that should inspire trust, like churches that demand tithing, can turn into scams when they start promising material rewards in return for your money. At the end of the day, the promise of riches, whether through a quick buck scheme or an elaborate multi-level pyramid, is often just a distraction from the harsh reality. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. In this digital age, while the risks are plentiful, there's also the potential for genuine cooperation and success. If you learn to spot the scams and avoid becoming part of the next con, stay sharp, keep your eyes open, and remember, the moment you start believing the hype, you might just be the fool at the table. Chapter 10. Investing. Getting rich on low returns takes too long. Let's cut the bullshit. The standard get-rich-slow advice is a joke. You're supposed to lock your money away forever. Never spend a dime on anything you enjoy, and only at the end of your miserable life do you finally reap the rewards. In other words, you live like a pauper your whole life just to watch compound interest slowly trickle in. If it even does. That's not living. That's self-imposed financial starvation. I even saw some guides suggesting you forage for food and hunt your way to riches. Really? If you live in a big city, your idea of foraging would probably be rummaging through garbage cans. No thanks. Business beats speculation. Now, why dump $100,000 into Bitcoin when you could invest that cash in a business that actually creates value? Let's break it down in a way that makes sense. Say you start a business with $100,000. In its first year, it pulls in $100,000 in revenue and nets $30,000 after costs. That business could easily be sold for 3 times its net income. Why? Because someone out there is desperate for a profitable venture. A 33% annual return on investment? Who in their right mind would pass that up when banks are practically giving you 0% or worse? When you build a business, you're not waiting around for the market to decide your fate. You're creating future money out of thin air. And that's something speculation will never do. You can essentially compress 10 years' worth of earnings into just 3 if you play your cards right. Public companies often exit at multiples of their earnings. Whether it's net or gross doesn't even matter. The potential to multiply your money is enormous. You've got 2 choices. Sit and wait for your business to slowly pay off, or build, sell, and reinvest, over and over. That's how you squeeze centuries of profit into a few short years. Speculation, it'll just leave you waiting. Stocks. Real investment advice from the best. Now let's talk stocks. Warren Buffett, the undisputed champion of investing, laid out some simple rules in his will. His prescription? Take 10% of your cash, park it in short-term government bonds, and put 90% in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. Think about it. If Buffett's wealth grew by simply riding the Berkshire Hathaway train, Anyone with access to the US stock market could do the same. It's almost insane when you consider he made 94% of his fortune after turning 60. Consider tickers like BRKA, IBB, SPY, GLD, and AAPL. Berkshire Hathaway remains a juggernaut, and these days biotech is even starting to shine. The idea is to balance safety, like owning a piece of the S&P 500, with a dash of calculated risk in emerging sectors. Take a lesson from Buffett and even Sam Walton. These guys drive beat-up cars and waste practically nothing on themselves. Their frugality is a statement. More money doesn't automatically equal a better life or more free time. When returns are similar across the board, be extra cautious about the risks you take on for something that might not pay off as expected. The psychology and nuance of stock investing. Here's a nugget of investing psychology. If you love seeing your portfolio go up and want to avoid the inevitable dips, pick stocks that historically have minimal drawdowns. Sure, you can set a far-off benchmark and convince yourself you're always winning, but don't fool yourself. Market fluctuations are part of the game. And while many swear by buying diversified baskets of stocks instead of individual companies, advice handed down from the richest guy in the world, that's only half the story. If everyone played it safe, who'd actually run the companies? Someone's got to take risks on individual stocks, and that's where real opportunity lies. Let's not even get started on the long versus short debate. When you're long, you're banking on growth. But if you're short, remember, a stock can only fall to zero, while its upside is theoretically unlimited. It's messy math, and it's a reminder that speculation is a game for those who like to play with fire, generating returns and global economics. Is there any other entity out there that's reliably generating returns? Aside from massive funds like Norway's Sovereign Wealth Fund, which invests with a mission, it's hard to say. I'd love to learn from those who can consistently create and sustain real value in this crazy world. Now consider global asset allocation. Would you rather see a giant like Google have more cash for innovation, or your neighbor Bob have enough money to buy extra beer? Ideally, productive companies get the capital they need to drive progress, not Bob's wasted income. Unfortunately, the world is full of distractions and inefficiencies, massive consulting fees, and exploitable loopholes that ultimately benefit no one. Ever heard that your income is the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with? That's pure correlation-causation bullshit. As your income climbs, your circle naturally changes. It's not that your friends magically pump up your paycheck. Taxes, trusts, and protecting your wealth. Now let's get real about taxes. The rich have mastered the art of paying less while you're left holding the bag. Death and taxes, they say. But the truth is that some of the wealthiest people avoid estate taxes entirely through trusts. Take Ingvar Kamprad of IKEA fame. He parked his wealth in trusts that sidestep the tax man. Even when you do pay taxes, there's often a massive discount. Earn $1 million from a job, and you might lose 35% or more to taxes. But if that million is just appreciated value on an asset you haven't sold, you pay zero until you actually cash out, and you might never need to if you can borrow against it. Meanwhile, working folks are stuck with heavy taxes on every earned dollar. Picture this. You fight your way from the working class into the realm of capital assets, but once you're there, everyone's after you. One random encounter can lead to civil forfeiture. Your kid's friend messes up, and boom, you lose your house. Getting pulled over with a wad of cash, they seize it on the spot. Asset seizure is a multi-billion-dollar industry, often more profitable for the state than actual robberies. If you really want to safeguard your wealth and avoid the so-called death tax, you have to play smart. The trick is not to own assets directly. Let a trust hold your property. Trusts don't die, so they never trigger estate taxes. This is why, even with all their problems, people like O.J. Simpson managed to dodge estate taxes by using trusts. Percentages, economics, and productivity. Percentages can be useful, but they're often misleading. They compare one thing to something else that might not even matter. Sometimes it's just better to look at hard figures instead of abstract ratios. When it comes to economic systems and productivity, countries with fluid credit systems can move at lightning speed, both the good and the bad. It's a delicate balance. Modern economies extract insane productivity from their workforces, but if wealth were evenly distributed, most people would opt for more free time. Yet give someone too much time off, and they risk losing their edge. There's a tipping point where extra days off turn you into a couch potato. Final thoughts. At the end of the day, the key to building wealth isn't in chasing after every trendy investment or getting lost in complicated percentages. It's in making smart, deliberate choices. Whether you're building a business, investing in stocks, or protecting your assets from the inevitable taxman, you have to understand the game. Play it like the pros. Work smart, take calculated risks, and always, always be one step ahead of the next scam or tax loophole. Now go out there and make your money work for you, because if you don't, someone else will.